Hello there! It is another Tuesday, which means it's time for another in real life video. And this week, well, folks, it is that time of year again. It crept up on at least me. I don't know about anyone else, but it really crept up on me all out of the blue, all suddenly. But it is the Summer Game Fest time. What used to be about E3 time, but now we do Summer Game Fest since E3 is now defunct. So we're gonna have a few, at least two, I guess, watch-alongs this week. Probably sometime Friday evening or night, or, I don't know, depending on how late it is. Perhaps Saturday is when it'll happen, at least on this channel. We'll see. But watch-alongs is what I'm talking about. We've got... And we've actually had a few Nintendo things recently, but it's not really within the purview of this channel. We'll see if we do any other specific watch-alongs. For, like, instance, I want to say Sony has got something lined up. I'm not, like I said, I'm not sure if I'll do anything for that. I'm not sure if I'll do anything specifically for Xbox and all of that. Right. And just as well, I feel a little weird watching something so specifically dedicated to Xbox, at least right now, given the BDS stuff, right? Which, you know, there is some degree of, like, that being a little weird, so, you know, you kind of go where you can, right? You tread where you can. We're definitely, like, the channel has a strong focus on Elder Scrolls. There's no getting around that. But, I don't know. Feel a little weird about. We'll see how I feel about it as we go forward, and who knows, maybe if there's something very Elder Scrolls or Fallout or BGS related, we'll take a look at it then if I catch wind that something like that may appear. Like, I think, aren't we due for a Starfield announcement? Regardless, that is neither here nor there, at least for the time being. What is, though, is this Witcher 4 stuff that just recently came out, thus we're doing a watch-along here. Witcher 4 had a little tech showcase at State of Unreal or something like that. It's what Epic hosts to sort of show off and talk about and showcase the Unreal Engine. And of course, CD Projekt Red was there with Witcher 4, which has been in the news. I guess if you don't follow that closely to it, the big deal with CD Projekt Red and explicitly their engine is that for their going forward, they are no longer using their in-house engine. I think it's called Red Engine, or was called Red Engine, which hopefully helps them a lot. My sort of take on this is, like, two-faceted. It's a damn shame, I would say, that there's going to be less AAA game engines being run and being maintained and updated and all of that. I think the world of video games is better. The AAA world of video games is better when there are more AAA games that have their own in-house engine. You know, it helps just that little bit more sort of confer, you know, it helps games feel different. You know, it helps games feel different. They have their different strengths, right? Lord knows we were just talking about BGS, Bethesda games, sort of lauded for their modability, among other things. And as we've seen recently as well, points of comparison with how Oblivion Remastered has had Unreal sort of strapped onto the top of the old Gamebryo engine and sort of different things that they're all different capable of. Stuff like that. Regardless, they have shirked their old engine, which, like I said, I think it's the Red Engine, right? God, I can't remember what it was called. But they used it for Witcher 3 and 2077, Cyberpunk 2077. In the past, I don't remember what they actually used for Witcher 2. Maybe they used Unreal for Witcher 2. I remember the most shocking thing, if you'll recall, or perhaps you've never played it yourself or even know, Witcher 1 actually ran on the same engine as Dragon Age Origins. It ran on BioWare's engine that it used for Dragon Age Origins, which is why a lot of the character models and like animations and whatnot look very similar between those games, is because it's running the same damn engine from sort of roughly the same time period. Very wild to consider, and also worth knowing, this isn't the first time that they have used an engine developed by a different studio or organization, right? Or in this case, Unreal, being developed by Unreal. And they use it for like Fortnite and stuff, right? They still make their own games, in a sense. Anyway, that's sort of the big takeaway there. Hopefully, it helps them not have to crunch so much. As we know, there was no shortage of information around the launch period of 2077, of Cyberpunk 2077, of them saying like, yeah, our development team is just being driven into the ground. And you saw, this was even before they inevitably got hit with layoffs, you saw people leaving that team because of the conditions under which they had to work and all of that. And hopefully this helps alleviate some of it. But like I say, it's another side of the same coin, where on the other side, like I said, it's kind of a shame that they weren't able to, if this is the concession that has to be made, I do prefer this, but it's kind of a shame that we couldn't have our cake and eat it too, in the sense that it would have been nice to have and maintain another AAA studio making and maintaining their own engine. It would have been nice, but it's a sacrifice that they were willing to make, and I'm willing to accept, right? And I'm sure many others are going to be willing to accept it as well. But let's do a quick cut here as we go look at the tech demo trailer, which, before we do that, I think it is important to note that this is very tech specific, right? Although we will be seeing Siri walking around doing stuff, I believe we were told ahead of time that this is not at all indicative of anything that may be in the final game. It may be that, in fact, it will very likely be, that they'll reuse assets that were generated here. Like armor, clothing, character models will show up in different places, rigging, animations like that. Environmental art will probably show up in a different way, but we may not see this exact stuff at all in the final game. This is very much what people refer to in like games previews, a vertical slice, where it's a very, it's like a cake. You take a very thin vertical slice of the cake, and this is what you show off. And hopefully it is indicative of what is to come. But I'm very curious about, like I said, on the engine level of things, especially with so much going on recently, so much talk about Unreal as compared to Creation Engine 2, right? That a lot of that is on my mind. So in some ways this is self-serving, but make no mistake, we will be playing Witcher 4 on the channel, as well as the other Witcher games, right? Eventually, at some point. It's on the to-do list. Anyway, we'll do a quick cut here as we go to picture-in-picture mode. We'll be right back. Hey, we are back! Let's see, here's the title in the top left. Witcher 4 Unreal Engine 5 tech demo. If you want to find the video yourself, which I think, yeah, this is the version that CD Projekt put up on their own YouTube channel for The Witcher itself specifically. We may have to adjust volume, we'll see. Yeah, see, not actual gameplay. Right, this is like a sample. It's a sample.
Sleep is he, the plowing plonker.
Let's crank this up a bit.
Break me pearlies on this blasted pit-ridden tract.
The character models looking really Witcher 3 too. Aesthetically, of course, the same, but just the way in which the models look. Wow, the horse can fly? This is a new kind of monster? Wow. I loved Uncharted 2. What was that? That wasn't like a cockatrice or whatever, huh? Hmm.
Salt. Almost had me fooled, Fruin.
Turn it up a bit. We don't yet have like a release date, but this looks... They got a lot made already, huh? They did definitely announce that recently they were in full production. And in pre-production for the Cyberpunk sequel.
Thank you. Thank you, everyone, and welcome to the State of Unreal at Unreal Fest Orlando. We're here to show you what's next with Unreal Engine
in Orlando?
And so much more. We are thrilled that you're able to join us. Thank you. But
this is in Florida.
First things first, I'm here with Sebastian and Kaitek from CD Projekt Red. We have a lot to talk about. Hey, guys.
Hey. Thank you, Wyatt. Thank you, Wyatt, and hello, everyone. With The Witcher 4, we're stepping things up. And to do that, we needed the right partner. One that truly understands that great open-world games are all about art and technology coming together.
Yeah, and look, our goals are completely aligned here. And around the launch of UE5, your awesome team at CD Projekt Red announced a collaboration to make open-world development in Unreal even better. And it's an opportunity, we just couldn't pass it up. So we've been working on a technical demo together to achieve just that. I think we should take a look at it. You guys ready?
Born ready. Kaitek is going to play the build for us.
Sure, let's do it.
This is a technological showcase set in the world of The Witcher 4. What you just saw and are going to see now is running on a standard PlayStation 5 at 60 FPS with ray tracing.
One of the things about like Witcher 3 and Witcher 2 aesthetic is that they were super big on like these really saturated contrasts of oranges and blues, right? Which we saw right there in the like pre-rendered bits, which, you know, this is all in some way pre-rendered, right? It's a technical demo. But even here, you see it coming through. I assume that we should expect to see that present throughout, right? There's no reason to expect otherwise. Another thing with regards to them using Unreal Engine, I would assume another big helpful part of it is all of the ways in which Epic kind of helped to make Unreal financially more accessible to a lot of groups. And, you know, for a big AAA project like The Witcher 4, which is almost assuredly going to sell like hotcakes, right? I feel like with Phantom Liberty, they gained back a lot of goodwill from people. And true enough, even with the disastrous launch of 2077, of Cyberpunk 2077, a lot of people still bought the dang game, right? Despite everything. A lot of people still bought it, even on some of the worst platforms where it performed so poorly. But I do think it's relevant here that they're mentioning, yeah, this is it playing on console, right? This is it running on a PlayStation and all of that. Because, of course, you know, the performance at launch for that game, for Cyberpunk on console at launch, was really, truly nightmarish. It was really, really bad. The whole situation was really bad. But, you know, this is sort of like a celebration of like, hey, we're back. We're doing it right. We're not going to, like, run our team into the dirt this time, hopefully. We'll see how it pans out. Fingers crossed and all of that. But yeah, with regards to the financial end of things on Unreal, I believe God, I don't want to quote the specifics. So when I do say stuff like this, don't take it at face value. Take it with a grain of salt. I want to say Unreal recently was in the news for like, oh, if your game makes such and such amount of money, the first like $500,000, the first $1 million, we won't even take a cut, right? So the first $1 million that your game makes using our engine, you can just take whatever you want. If it ultimately doesn't even make more than $1 million, we're just going to let you use our engine, right? As far as I know, like using Unreal Engine for like a smaller project is totally cool, right? You don't even have to pay, but they do start taking a cut on bigger successes at a certain point, right? And then there's also stuff with like, they have incentives for launching your game on the Epic Games Store and then launching it exclusively on there, which in some cases, I don't know, you kind of do shoot yourself in the foot by having that amount of limited access to the game, at least on PC, right? I know, for instance, huge game that I absolutely love, Remedy's Alan Wake 2. My God, I love Alan Wake 2. But on PC, that game is only available on the Epic Games Store, and I feel like that has unquestionably affected its potential access to people and how often you see it when it's on sale or like discounted or promoted in any way, right? Absolutely love the game, and I got it there and all of that, but make no mistake, there are people who just will not buy anything off of Steam, right? I personally, I think that's pretty ignorant, right? As someone who buys things on whatever platform they tend to be cheapest on or helps out the actual development studio, if given the opportunity, I will go for that. But I don't know, make no mistake, Steam is still, it's got kind of a monopoly on the PC games market, right? As far as storefronts go. Hell, even when developers will send me, for instance, a key to take a look at their game, even if it's like a smaller team, right? And they don't have like, you know, it's not CD Projekt Red. It's not a group that's like backed by Unreal. And of course, like in the case of Alan Wake 2, that was almost entirely funded by Epic Games, right? So make no mistake there. But even in the case of smaller groups like indie teams and all of that, if they go to send me a key, it will be a Steam key, right? It won't be for anything else. Anyway, that said, if it is like something like Xbox, they will offer to send, I think, one for like the Windows Store, the Xbox Games Browser, or whatever it is called, you know, stuff like that. But even then, I think they tend to have an option for a Steam version, right? Anyway, let's continue.
So in the game, you'll be playing as Ciri, a professional monster slayer, a witcher. She
Turn you up
explores the
anymore?
world
Nope.
and hunts down monsters for coin. The region we are in is called Kovir, and you'll get to explore it in a game. Right now, Ciri is investigating a monster, and after gathering new clues, she is heading back to a nearby village. All right, everyone, meet Kelpie.
Kelpie?
Let weeds be weeds, Kelpie.
So just like Geralt had Roach, Ciri has her own loyal companion.
We return to town.
These two characters need to feel like one. Since you're gonna explore the world on horseback, riding needs to feel seamless, natural, and just fun.
Yeah, and to support that, we're introducing multi-character motion matching in Unreal. So Ciri and Kelpie, they're perfectly synchronized when mounting from any angle and speed. And we also support root motion movement on Kelpie, so controlling her feels realistic and grounded.
Huh.
And there are also some really nice improvements to our Unreal Chaos Flesh Solver, and these machine-learned deformations. So you've got realistic muscles moving and stretching under Kelpie's skin without compromising the performance there.
Does anything on Kelpie grow or shrink depending on temperature? This is wild. It's a tech demo. It's a tech demo.
World itself. So much of the Witcher world is natural, organic, especially Kovir with its dense forest and wild nature.
Yeah, and wild nature is hard. And with nanite geometry, we've freed artists from so many of their old constraints. But we don't want to rest until everything we do in Unreal has that same spirit of freedom. There's always more work to do. And foliage is a huge piece of that puzzle. So we are excited to introduce nanite foliage.
Ah! My God!
And in order to achieve...
It's a tech demo! It's a tech demo! But I will also say, this is it running at maximum, right? At least on a PlayStation. I'm curious what it will look like on lower grade hardware. You know? This is one of my eternal hang-ups with Unreal Engine, is that oftentimes, depending on what you futz around with and turn down, it can look pretty damn gnarly, right? Especially with regards to foliage, right? You really got fine-tune stuff to get things like foliage looking pretty good. I know there's no shortage of people who have booted up Oblivion Remastered, and you know, you get some gnarly looking foliage effects going on, right? There is something to be said nowadays. It used to not be the case, but there are so many people with aging PCs that are kind of holding back, in some ways, a lot of video games, right? It used to be that it was primarily and predominantly consoles, but now so many people have PCs that can run a game, but they can't run the newest games on like maximum. You know, their PCs are actually decently far behind even like budget tier current gen consoles like the Series S, right? If you look at those Steam hardware surveys, you'll see that like the comparable PC hardware that a lot of people are running with is barely, if not even, up to snuff with the Xbox Series S, which, you know, is touted as being like I said, this entry level whatever. And I'm very curious how, as Switch 2 comes out and more people run benchmarking and stuff on that hardware, where exactly that's going to rank up. You know, I'm so curious about that. But we are in this unique position where there are a lot of people who have technically entered being able to play PC games. But sometimes that's because not just these are people who are interested in games, but they have to operate on like a huge budget for their computer. But sometimes, and I think this is very true lately, especially with like the global pandemic and lockdown, when people did a lot of work from home, a lot of people got like PCs, desktops, and laptops that are capable of running games, but not like at a high end, you know? So a lot of potential systems entered the fray, so to speak, that could run stuff, but they weren't originally intended to do that. You know, it just so happens like, oh, the laptop that you bought to work from home on for a few years, it just so happens to be able to run Baldur's Gate 3. It just so happens to be able to run The Sims 4 or something like that, right? A lot of people find themselves in that situation. And of course, there's absolutely no denying in like Eastern markets and stuff, internet cafes are still really, really huge. And those are also severely limited in certain ways, right? Anyway, let's continue on from here. Just something to bear in mind, and to something that I'm very curious about. Depending on when Witcher 4 hits, I have been planning on upgrading my own computer, and we'll see about the who can really say how much it will cost to upgrade your computer with the whole tariff situation. We're gonna see. it's gonna be wild, right? At the very least, I feel like I'm in a privileged enough position to be able to do it and write it off as like, this is work. This is tax deductible because I use this for work. But a lot of people are not in that position either, right? A lot of people are gonna feel a bit of a bite when it comes to tariffs, even if you don't live in the United States, as we have seen, right? Those Switch prices didn't go up here, but they went up in a lot of places, didn't they? What the heck? Anyway, let's continue this.
Gorgeous foliage density everywhere.
It is very gorgeous.
Efficient, fast to render. We believe that a new idea was needed. So instead of the same card approach we've been using for the past 20 years, artists should be free to take a nanite approach to foliage, modeling every single leaf and pine needle. And the old LOD tricks of the past, they needed a complete rethink.
Really?
And in their place, it's a new adaptive voxel representation in nanite. It's volumetric,
Really?
fully 3D, it is super fast to render. And these dense clusters of triangles turn into these cubes, which at a distance, they're no larger than a pixel, and they react to the changing light of our dynamic sun and our shadows, and they allow artists to render whatever amount of foliage is needed to achieve their vision without compromise.
And no compromise means how ambitious we are when it comes to bringing our vision to life with incredible visuals. But more than that, together with Epic, we created faster way to load the world. We can now bring in more content more quickly for the smoothest possible experience as we fly down to catch up with Siri.
Yeah, what's she been up to? What's Siri? Let's check in with Siri. What's going on with Siri? Cool cloak, cool cape.
Welcome to Valdrest. So Valdrest is a port town, a hub for fishing, trade, and mining. It's one of those places where you can meet shady characters or overhear gossip from other lands. It's also where Ciri took on her current contract. Let's leave.
Imagine your
and
town
explore the marketplace.
being described as a place to meet shady characters.
I'm so excited we can finally show you some of this stuff. Let's see what Valdrest has to offer.
Damn, he's spitting on her. The bear also spits on her. Ew, Witcher.
Pardon.
Guys, notice how responsive the world is.
All right.
Character actions directly affect what happens around you.
Yo!
Sometimes even setting off
The
chain reactions.
pigs are feasting
Everything is
too.
working together.
God, you got to feed the pigs all the damn time. I mean, the kid too, right?
Oh, look at this
The kid
cool
shouldn't start, but the
gentleman being
pigs.
taught how to fly by an angry innkeeper. That's what happens when you cheat at Gwent.
Last of it, is it?
We got to get away from these Gwent jokes. we got to get away from them.
Okay, so this is the guy who gave the series Quest his own. Like you probably suspect, he has his own agenda in all of this.
You're off your tits again, Wilfred. Get your ass up.
A typical day's toil.
Who in? Ah, Witcheress. What news of my wagon? My
Witcheress.
eternity is taking that damn salt to arrive.
I found them. And, well, suffice to say, they'll not reach you. As for the salt, I found not one speck. I presume this comes as no surprise to you. Now. Kavir's smuggling trade is of no concern to me.
Shush, shush, shush.
The manticore that flattened your cart and devoured your men? Quite the opposite.
Manticore. No.
In Witcher
that
4, the
winged
Witcher
hellspawn
tosses a
dwelling
coin
out
to
in the
you?
While Siri decides what to do about that merchant, let's take a look at the character technology that powers this marketplace. Why don't we listen in on these fishmongers? They're selling their wares, chatting up customers.
Yeah, that's what I want to hear.
Won't find none fresher.
Reckon me ladies after one of them.
Comes. Get this cleaned and gutted for you. You mind, dearest? Into seeing something more. Got mackerel cod, all Brexit's finest.
Mackerel
And there is
cod?
tons of tech to play
Oh,
here.
mackerel.
Even a simple
I
market
thought you said
solve,
macro
metahuman
cod, like really
tools,
big ones.
improved Unreal Smart Objects, Chaos Cloth, and more.
Yeah. And
Sorry, did he
all of
say
this exists
chaos
to make sure-
cloth? Did he say chaos cloth?
Human tools, improved Unreal Smart Objects, Chaos Cloth, and more.
Yeah, and all of this exists to make sure that the gap in quality between Siri and NPCs is as small as possible.
Yeah, and closing that gap, it's not just about fidelity, right, but also authenticity. They should react to changes in the world around them.
But the prisoner in Pillory isn't exciting enough for Valdrest. Let's grab everyone's attention with a circus. But the great performance deserves a huge crowd though. Let's crank it up.
Are we gonna shove crowd sizes? Okay. Okay.
So you are seeing tons of optimizations here to many of Unreal systems, including an entirely new Unreal animation framework, allowing us to fit easily in our 60 FPS budget, not just in rendering, but also with room to spare on the game thread. Over 300 animated skeletal mesh agents all going about their business. And the whole point is to leave breathing room for developers like you to introduce the gameplay and the systems that your players expect, empowering you to make your worlds come to life without Unreal standing in your way.
Look, I know it's a tech demo, but the Unreal guy really is sounding like a salesman here. He's really like they're why are you pitching it to? It sounds like he's pitching it to them during this. Like they're already using it. They're already making the game, right? I don't know. I mean, it's a pitch to other studios, right? That's who he's pitching it to. But I don't know, the way it's in conversation, it sounds like he's pitching it to them, to CDPR. What the hell? But yeah, the crowd size stuff is very cool. That's always been such a difficult thing to achieve in video games, is like huge crowd size where there's any measure of meaningful fidelity between like individual actors within a scene, right? I remember the first instance of it being really, of us getting into like really mind-blowing stuff was with one of the Hitman games, wasn't it? One of the Hitman games was like really bragging up like, yeah, check out our crowd size, and you can have Agent 47 go through and navigate through the crowd and like blend in and stuff like that, you know? Very fascinating.
You are right. And that's the open world RPG that we're making. But before we wrap up, how about one final check-in with Siri?
We go back and the guy is dead.
We are making this game to be the most immersive and ambitious open world Witcher game ever. And we are making this a reality thanks to our work on Unreal with the team at Epic. I think what we are doing together is going to bring in a new generation of open world RPGs, and I'm so proud of what we accomplished so far.
We are too.
So we're almost done, but before we go, here's a small gift for all Witcher fans. A first look at Lanexeter.
Oh my god! Sorry, I'm not that big into Witcher lore. It's fun, but I don't know it that well.
With what?
Oh. There you have it. The Witcher 4 tech demo, right? Pretty neat. Pretty neat. I don't know, what else can we say that we didn't say during the feature, right? Looking forward to it. I would say, if I had to guess, 3 years, at least. if not more. But 3 years at least. I bet we hear something about it maybe every year. We get a little vertical slice, we get a little tease. Maybe 2 if we're being really optimistic, but I would say 3 years. Right? They've had a few years of already it being in pre-production. I don't know. I guess it also really depends on the scale of it. You know? Right? It is worth considering. They said, like, this is going to be their most ambitious one. Right? We'll see. We'll see. What I'm very curious about is how all this is going to map into the next Cyberpunk game too. Right? I'm very curious about that. God, I would love a higher degree of character customization in the next Cyberpunk game, in the sequel. Right? I would love it to be third person, actually, right? With the sort of emphasis that they put on character clothing and appearance. And then you could dial it up with, right, having cybernetics and other augments, right, where you take like God, I can't even remember what's called, but like the ridiculously buff people, you could have that on your character as well. I want to see like character morphing in that sense. I would love that. You know, if anything, I feel like that is begging to be in third person. I don't know if they would do it, but man, I would totally be down for it. I think if anything, it works even better than perhaps Witcher does, you know? The only catch would be is that a cityscape is way more visually claustrophobic and thus is better suited to first-person gameplay, I would say, than, like, wilderness, you know? If you're going down an alley, it kind of sucks to have it in third person because then the camera situation just feels all the more claustrophobic when depending on interiors, alleyways, stuff like that, streets. I don't know. It's complicated. But we'll see. We'll see. That's next Cyberpunk game. That's probably I don't know, damn near 10 years away, right? If we had to guess. Probably less than that. Probably like 7, 6. We'll see. We'll see. And just as well, we'll see how much the swap to Unreal Engine 5 and so forth, right? Eventually we'll get to 6. How much that speeds up their processes, right? Because they will have less work to do developing and maintaining their engine, right? The idea being like you cut back there, you know? We'll see. We'll see. Very curious about it. All right. That ought to do it for this week. Well, like I said, we'll have probably another one on Friday evening. If not, it'll go up on Saturday. First looking at Summer Games Fest, you know? Good Lord, I didn't realize it was so soon, but hey, here we are. It's one of those times of the year, right? All right, until next time, please take care of each other.